I wander into windmills, and I had a Hefeweizen from them, and I was like, this tastes like home. This tastes familiar. And for me, it was that like sense of home. I was so homesick at the time. I was 21, and craft beer did that for me. It transported for me and created that space of community that I've since found all over the world.
Cheers. What do we got today? New Belgium, a special release, Oakspire Bourbon Barrel Ale. Collab with Four Roses. Four Roses.
Four Roses.
It's really clean, really delicious. Not as boozy as I would have thought it would be. It's definitely not boozy. It is boozy, but it's really crisp, really clean.
It is nice and crisp and clean.
It's like a light stout.
Greetings, fellow beer connoisseurs. It's a beautiful day, and it's Body by Beer, and I am Chelsea.
Hey, Chelsea. Very enthusiastic today. I love it. And hey there, I'm Liz Hess. I hope you're all doing well. Thanks for tuning in to Body by Beer today. We've got a good one for you. We're experiencing something new, maybe a hot topic type of interview. Oh, yeah, we got a special guest.
We are chatting with the globe-trotting, hop-hopping travel planner and craft beer enthusiast, Campbell Hawk.
Yes.
But first, we got to start this off with some frothy brew news.
All right, our first brew news of the day, we're going to be discussing Kernza. Kernza is a climate-friendly grain that's enticing Colorado breweries. Shout out to Aspen Public Radio for this article. Really easy read, and thanks for the information. So what is Kernza? It's a perennial grain that is supposed to improve soil health, prevent erosion, and it requires less input. So that potentially revolutionizes agriculture, right? Because we're always fighting how to keep the soil better, right? Don't deplete our resources. Pretty cool. So the Land Institute is responsible for the groundbreaking work in developing Kernza. And then the USDA jumped in and did a nationwide study on Kernza to understand the agricultural and commercial viability, hinting at possible large-scale transformative potential. There are some challenges, though. It's more expensive, and it's lower yielding than wheat.
Okay, so it's like a wheat substitute specifically.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I could have started with that. Thank you. That's okay.
And then perennials, they come back annually, correct? That's a perennial?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right. Annuals die off, perennials are returning. You would think it would be the other way.
It confuses me every time.
That's fair. That's why they do it. Maybe as a good way to reminder. So it's more expensive, it's lower yielding than wheat, and its environmental benefits and market potential, especially within craft brewing and distilling, are promising.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So why are we talking about that here in Colorado? Well, there is a Colorado farmer, Todd Olander, shout out to you and the family farming crew, who is trialing the Kernza cultivation, which signals that growing interest amongst farmers. And then you bring in Odell Brewing and Denver Distillery.
Are they the first ones that are testing it out?
Yeah, they're brewing and making it happen and tasting, and there's a whole article about it. A link to the Aspen Public Radio article will be in there, so it gets a little bit more into Denver Distillery and Odell. For exploring these interests and incorporating Kernza into their craft beverages.
Super cool. I would definitely try that.
Yeah, so far the same, right? I would too. And so far consumer reception has been pretty good. So shout out to them. Let's see. So it's still in its early stages, but the potential impact on sustainable farming and the creation of unique spirits and beers is undeniable. So pretty exciting. Always all about that.
In general, I mean, you're going to know this because you come from the land of the wheat being grown. How often, like, can you produce wheat every year? Like, is it just once? Does it just do like one cycle, or can you like grow it a couple times?
So I'm sure George is rolling his eyes at me right now. But I know that there is a winter wheat, and then I know that you can just plant it normally, right? But I think you plant it, by normal I mean like the same time they do corn and soybeans, but it actually might go into the ground earlier than that. Sorry, Mom and George, my bad.
Don't listen to this episode.
But maybe there is a succession, is what you're talking about. So we talked about radishes in an earlier episode, and you can definitely grow and plant and harvest them. Plant, grow, harvest them in a succession, meaning they're pretty much fully matured in about 6 weeks, and then you just go at it again. I don't think that's the case for wheat, but you can plant them at different times, and I really just feel like that's the difference of what type of wheat that it is, whether you're planting it as a winter wheat or a spring wheat.
Okay.
And they're probably just different flavors is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, I was just wondering if like a rebuttal for this was going to be like, well, yeah, but you can plant wheat 3 times a year. Like, is this going to grow back 3 times a year?
Awesome question. And if somebody knows, please chime in. I'm happy to be I didn't know, or I forgot. Maybe I need to listen to the Ag Channel more while driving through Nebraska, and you can't get any other radio signal.
Yeah.
But most of the time I just catch the cattle prices. That's a great question. Yeah. I hope we look it up, or I hope somebody chimes in. That would be absolutely fantastic.
George.
Just don't shit on me too much, George, please. I'm very sensitive.
So interesting. We'll definitely...
Super exciting.
Yeah. We'll definitely... I would love to know when that comes out and what styles they're going to do. Like something that brews quicker and something that has a little bit more flavor around it, like an IPA or something. Maybe a stout, but like I would think like an IPA. Like I would be impressed if they just jumped like right in with a lager and just locked down a tank for 6 to 8 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, the Sloan's Lake Brew House. Mm-hmm. Yeah, apparently they have, or did have at the time of this article, a brew on tap. So maybe we should cruise over there and check it out.
Shoot, dang.
What are you doing later?
Lunch.
All right, let's go for lunch.
We get some lunch. Sounds like a great time. All right. Well, speaking of studies and things going on, Cornell University recently just did a study that revealed there's some hidden dangers in our beloved NA beers. I can't say it's like surprising, because the reason beers started getting brewed in the first place was, because the alcohol kills bacteria.
Makes sense.
Kills the germs, right? Like,
hello.
That's like how people ate and stay hydrated. Like,
kills your brain cells and E. coli.
Exactly. And so the problem is there's some bacteria being shown that it's growing in the non-alcoholic beer section, E. coli and salmonella. Unfortunately, what I don't know exactly is how they're going to offset this. I mean, because even I believe, like, I could be totally wrong, but I think kombucha, the fermentation is what kills that off.
Yes. Yeah.
So the vinegar, right? Because that's why you can use vinegar as a cleaning solution. So these are kind of fitting in this weird niche that I think they're probably going to have to look at some other ways to store. I mean, they bring it up in here, right? Like, it'll
proper
look at
storage, yeah.
Proper storage, acidity, temperature. I mean, like, you can do water and bottled water.
And that's nothing new. I feel like we had heard that before. But basically just bringing it to light that it's not a perfect science, right? And again, I would love if a brewer or brewer assistant would chime in on this too, right? Like, what are some of the measures that you're taking to combat these type of things, especially with the alcohol not being produced? Because there's some really great NA beers out there, right? And more in-house ones are coming out too.
It's a great segment of the industry that was needed.
Oh yeah.
They've had NA beers for a long time, right? We have a friend that goes to Oktoberfest and he does one stein of Oktoberfest, and he does one stein of NA. Like,
alcohol fry.
He wants to keep drinking and hanging out and not getting too wasted. So, like, they've been around. I've always heard that you can't, like, keg them because of the bacteria that can grow in them.
Sure, storage.
And the storage aspect of it. So it'd be kind of interesting knowing what some of the places that have been brewing NAs for a long time, some of the bigger ones, have they been having this issue, or is this kind of like the in-house brews specifically? But it definitely highlights. I mean, you really got to know where your product's coming from, and I mean, we don't want the space to die out. So I hope,
they'll figure it out.
Yeah, and doing things properly and releasing that information, right? So more breweries that are doing stuff in house can make sure that they're doing their NAs at the quality that needs to be done. I mean, like I said, I would hate for this segment specifically to die off. It was really nice when pregnant that I could sit there and feel like an adult and hang out with everybody and not just be sipping on water in the plastic cup that comes next to the little water stations. And like, it was nice to have. And I love that people are being more health conscientious, but still want to go out and they still want to support and they still want to be out in the community. And we gotta keep that spec going. So I would be excited to see what they decide to do and
Absolutely.
how they kind of get that fixed and cleaned up.
Absolutely. And that particular article came from Men's Health. So we'll also have a link to that for those that want to read a little bit more. And again, if anybody has some insights and tips for that, would love to hear feedback from really any of these articles. Would be great.
In local Colorado news, there's been a strategic shift between two of my favorite breweries.
Oh, yeah?
Dry Dock Brewing and Great Divide Brewing are now joining forces.
All right.
To make incredible beers.
Yeah, I mean, they're, number 7 and number 8 of big players in the greater Denver area.
Yeah.
And they've decided to join forces and collaborate with one another. Dry Dock is closing down its Aurora location. Yep. But they're keeping the one over on Hampton Avenue. Obviously, the original, the staple with the brew house there, to keep that connection with their following and keep pumping out beers under the Dry Dock name. But Great Divide will be more hosting. Is that the right way to say that? Basically, all the brewing will go into Great Divide's facilities. Oh, okay. That's the word I'm looking for.
They're not going to brew anymore. Great Divide's taking like contract brewing for them.
Right. So the collaboration is poised to enhance efficiency for both brands, with Great Divide planning to produce 7,500 barrels for Dry Dock in 2024, while also gearing up for sales and marketing support.
Wow. Cool.
Right.
Awesome.
So both Dry Dock and Great Divide, they've experienced the challenges of an evolving craft beer market, competition leading to sales declines, and a need for innovative business approaches. Hence the collaboration. I think most people are just surprised that two of the bigger names, right, were coming into one another. But I mean, good for them, right? You gotta evolve or die.
Yeah.
Right.
That middle space is also hard in a lot of aspects. I mean, I know that Ball over COVID, they adjusted the amount of cans that you had to order, which really directly affected like the middle-sized breweries.
Right.
And when you're ordering in more ingredients, we kind of knew that the middle size, not obviously the big ones, but big for craft brew, like we're probably going to be the ones getting hit the hardest. And honestly, I feel like we're seeing it.
Yeah, I mean,
showing it directly.
Yeah, even as 2-ish years out, right? The ripple effect is still going out. So, but with the joint operations, it does take advantage of Great Divide's 60,000 barrel capacity to not only produce Dry Dock and Great Divide, but then to your point, like it offers that contract brewing to optimize efficiency. Cool. So it won't necessarily just be for the two, but I imagine they'll have sales out there trying to get other people's to brew there as well.
But it makes
sense. Why not use the facility?
Yeah, I mean, it's what the big breweries have been doing, right? They put a bunch of brands under their umbrella, and then they can double, triple up on marketing efforts, sales efforts. As a single salesperson, you can now go out and sell 2-3 different kinds of beers, like different brands, 2-3 different styles of brands, 2-3 different brands, versus just a single style. Like it makes sense. That's kind of where the space needs to be. I love that they're still able to keep in the the craft and the independent labels versus having to like totally combine in. And I hope to see it more. I think it'll help keep those middle players booming and growing. and keep them stable. I mean, we need them out there. It can't just be all the little guys. I think the business model actually makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
I mean, we do marketing for breweries, and part of what we're able to do multiple breweries at once, right? So as a single small brewery, having a singular full-time marketing person can be too expensive. Like it's not necessarily feasible, and I'm sure sales is going to run into the same problem. You can now order larger amounts of grains and materials, so you're going to get discounts there.
Sure.
Storage space that's available.
Sure.
And if you're doing like wrapping the cans themselves, I'm sure you're able to get discounts on that. It just makes sense. Share the cost savings.
Yeah.
Across the board.
And probably revenue.
Probably some revenue too. There's little boosts of revenue.
Operational costs, revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a pivotal moment that definitely reflects the broader changes within the craft beer industry and shows how even established breweries have to innovate and collaborate to thrive.
Yeah.
So cheers to Dry Dock and Great Divide, and good luck, of course. And they're going to continue to crush it. But what a great way to end 2023 is, just come out 2024 with your new model and get after it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I feel like we've always talked about the space being such a community, and most of the breweries were, we like to say frenemies, and that's even an exaggeration. Everyone has always been there to help out the other breweries, and now we're seeing that not just in talk or sharing things, like it's coming into business models, and I think it's going to be great. I'm excited to see more.
You know what I am excited about?
What?
I'm ready to pull up a bar stool. We've got something new that we're trying today. It's our very first interview. We're bringing on travel planner and beer enthusiast Campbell Hawk.
Campbell Hawk!
Ah! Welcome to the show, Campbell. We're super excited to have you here, get some insight from you, some tips, some tricks, and just hear about your travels around the world.
And drinking beer while you travel.
Yes, of course.
Welcome, Campbell Hawk.
Hello. So good to be here.
Let's kick things off with a little bit about yourself, Campbell. Tell us how long you've been a travel planner, where you're at these days, and a little bit about, you as a beer enthusiast. What's your favorite parts? What's going on? We're excited to chat with you.
Cool. Hey, it's so good to be here. I'm Campbell. I'm a full-time travel planner. I used to write a craft beer blog. I've been to easily 300 plus breweries across the world. My favorite type of beer is likely a Hefeweizen. However, I'm happy with a Helles and just about anything cold poured into my glass. I'm currently in Chiang Mai, Thailand, but I am from Seattle. And Chiang Mai is super interesting because craft beer is illegal here.
Ooh. And tell us more. How is it illegal?
It's a great question.
Yeah, so the beer scene in Thailand is monopolized by about 3 families that brew the big beer names here in Thailand. That'd be equivalent to your Budweiser, your Coors. These are the big brands of Thailand that have blocked out small craft brewing. So you can't have a tap room. It can't be brewed on site. There are starting to be some operations going underground with this, of course, with all alcohol. If you're restricting it, they'll go underground. And so you're starting to see some grassroots come through, but it'll be a while.
Okay, gotcha. So can the big breweries have tap rooms and brew on site? Is that just part of the monopolizing, or how's that all panning out?
I haven't seen it. So it's not part of the culture here. It's not there is no culture to go to a tap room here. So I don't know if it's not allowed or just not done here, if that makes sense.
So at least the rule applies to all big and small.
Yeah, there's just not really any tap rooms. Every now and then you'll see a tap room of people importing beers. So I can go to a tap room and drink a bottle of BrewDog. which is an interesting way to get around it. So there's a couple tap rooms, but you'll see beers from New Zealand, from the UK, from like they're not from here.
So bars, they have bars there. Yeah.
And then call them tap rooms.
Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking, right?
It's like a tap house, a pub kind of concept.
Yeah. It actually kind of leads, we have some fun facts that we'll do later, but it basically defines what a craft brew is. And it's basically, before I give it all away, it's about how much you actually brew annually. So they're saying no one under this number can brew annually. And because of that, you can't have on-site premises where you sell that beer. But in the culture, they do have or bars that you can go into that and drink the big players of the area. That's, am I following that right?
So slightly different from Seattle and Denver. Just a little bit.
Very different.
Very different. But you did say something fun earlier. You said that they have more of a coffee culture, sit-down coffee.
They do. There's a really large roasting culture here.
Cool.
There are cafes and coffee shops on every single block. I'm talking on my block where I live. We have 3 coffee shops, right, just on my side of the street.
Wow.
It's insane. I don't know how the competition works, but each one has its own vibe. Each one has its own music. It's really cool to see. So it's bringing in that community space that a brewery holds for many people.
Sure.
Okay. Interesting. Sure. Do they do does each little place do its own roasting? So do they have little flavors, or are they all kind of just using the same coffee?
They're using the same coffee, but all of the coffee is going to be locally grown at least. So there are the people that grow the coffee here in Thailand often roast. And then there are a couple specialty roasters as well.
That's an awesome story. Thank you so much, Campbell. Super appreciate it. So you're an international traveler, but you've also traveled quite a bit here in the U.S. For any of us that might be craving a long weekend here in the States, maybe over the holidays, or maybe even after the holidays, do you have a destination recommendation?
Yeah, I've got a couple. So I've been to 46 of the U.S. states. I'm missing a couple of the further ones to get to, and a couple random ones.
I understand it's hard for you to get far away from home.
Well, no, it's actually one of them's Rhode Island. It's just so small, it's easy to miss.
That's hilarious.
It's right there.
It's right there. But so I would say where you want to go for beer in the U.S. depends on what kind of beer you like. You want something really hoppy? Go to Seattle. Go to Portland. Portland has fabulous beers. If you want something light, you're midwinter, you're tired of these heavy beers, go to Austin, Texas, or San Diego. Now, Denver is a classic spot, but transportation could be harder in the winter. You hit a snowstorm, that can make it a little more challenging. I would stick with the winter travels: Austin, Santa Fe, San Diego. I didn't like the beer in Nashville. That's my hot take. But Asheville, North Carolina is a good spot as well for the winter.
Okay. Kevin and I stopped in Nashville on the baby moon, so I couldn't tell you if the beer was good, but he enjoyed them. I enjoyed sniffing them. They were lovely.
You watched it well.
I wafted it.
Wafted
Dip a
well.
finger in.
Please put my water in a beer glass, please, so I feel like an adult.
You can always smell it, right?
The food in Nashville makes up for it. The food is so good, it evens out the mid beer, and it's not bad. But it's just they're not doing as interesting things as a lot of the craft beer scene in a lot of the big cities are.
I'm actually I would assume Nashville has a lot of lighter beers. And since you seem to side on the lighter beer side, I'm actually kind of surprised that is your take on it. I would assume it'd be right up your alley.
I found them to be unbalanced.
Ooh.
Not to throw shade, but it just felt a little unbalanced. It felt like you're catering to people that love the national beers more than people that like craft beer.
Yeah, that makes sense though. I guess I can't say I'm that surprised by it, but it seems like a place that we should go open a good brewery. Can.
I'd say so. Actually, somewhere that surprised me that had good beer that I wouldn't necessarily say go for a weekend, but Memphis. Memphis had some really good breweries. Yeah. Yeah. It's good beer.
So it's not a state
Don't drive
thing.
down the wrong street.
Yeah.
Not a state thing.
Yeah, just Nashville.
I think another
with
one,
music.
if you are kind of stuck in the Midwest, even with the storms, Minnesota just won, not this most recent GABF, but I would like 2-3 years ago, they won quite a few awards, like the most that I think as a state they've won. So I think they're at least starting to crank out some good beer.
I am hearing a lot of good things coming out of Minnesota right now. Like, I feel like we're going to see a surge of people moving to Minnesota, especially with things heating up in the U.S. It's a fairly purpley blue state. It's got good beer. It has a big city, good transportation. Minnesota has a good national airport. I think we're going to see a lot of people go that way.
Yeah, and a lot of people are already in the city, right? They call them the cities. If you're from anywhere over in that area, South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota, they call them the cities. St. Paul and Minneapolis, Minnesota. You gotta go to the cities. You been to the cities? Yeah, I went to the cities last weekend. Actually, my brother lives up there, so I've seen or got to take part of some of the smaller breweries there. It was wintertime, so I love stouts, so I'm all about that. That was a good experience. Yeah, I like what you're saying, Campbell. A lot of people go in there, whether the outside of the city wants that or not. That's just how the world is, right? Yeah. A place fills up, you go somewhere else. A place fills up, you go somewhere else. But
one place I went to so I did like a 6-month road trip around the U.S., hit 36 states. One place that I went to that really surprised me and welcomed me in as if I was a local was Sioux Falls.
Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Yeah.
I do remember you telling me you were enjoying Sioux Falls.
Yes, I was shocked. I didn't really have too many preconceived ideas, but I wasn't thinking I'd be welcomed in like I was their family.
Right.
I walked in and I'm like getting pats on the back, free beers. I'm like, damn, am I home?
Right. Truly some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. I love it so much. Falls. Don't move there. But.
No, it's not for me. I think that to me is craft beer culture, though. That idea of like a craft brewery to me is going in, having a beer, and somebody asking me what my name is. Somebody taking it like one step further of just a normal transaction to be like, what'd you do today? And like that to me is why I fell in love with craft beer.
Love that. Yeah, that kind of goes along with what we were talking in the last episode about the kind of different levels of customer service, especially around this time of the year. And you gotta just love it. Otherwise, you just don't really. It doesn't necessarily fit. But I love that. It's a great example case.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that kind of your own definition of craft beer in the space globally? Like, are you seeing that all across the world, or is that like kind of a U.S. thing?
I am really excited you asked me this because it's why I fell in love with craft beer. I was living in Bangalore, India, which is the craft beer capital of India. And they've got some good beers, but it's at the time where like I didn't love beer. I just was very young. I liked drinking and partying. But like I didn't find that love of like the world of beer. And so I stumbled into this craft beer spot called Windmills in Bangalore. And if anyone here is familiar with Bangalore, Windmills is actually fairly popular. I think they've even opened up a U.S. location now. Because so many people from India, especially Bangalore, move to a lot of these larger tech cities. I wander into Windmills and I had a Hefeweizen from them, and I was like, this tastes like home. This
Ooh.
tastes familiar. And for me, it was that like sense of home. I was so homesick at the time. I was 21, and craft beer did that for me. It transported for me and created that space of community that I've since found all over the world.
Cool.
But that's how I got into it.
Aw,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
cute.
I love that.
Yeah. And now another one that I found that like completely shocked me internationally was Asuncion, Paraguay, a country that many people can't place on a map. It's one of two landlocked countries in South America. It's like smack dab in the middle of South America, fully landlocked, borders with Argentina, Brazil, and Bolivia.
Okay.
And it's not always the safest, but it's very beautiful. I went to a craft brew there, and this place was like really traditional in a craft brew US sense. Small batch, made in house, using US manufactured tanks, even. Like they imported
Nice.
equipment from the US, and they were making such good beer. But I walked in, I'm literally the only white girl in there, which isn't uncommon in a brewery, but
Right.
I walk in.
Never been there.
Crazy.
What's that
I
like?
walk in, and like my Spanish is okay. I was working on it, but they showed me like a full behind the scenes tour. They were just so excited to share their love of the beer, and it was good. It was good beer.
Oh, so was it like, were they brewing anything that stood out special, or is it just because it just had a really good quality and consistency overall?
Super high quality. They brewed in amber that was really, really good.
All right.
They stick to a lot of the classics. What was really interesting is the brewers could not speak English, but they could brew in English because all of the like brewing guides and books are in English.
They got stuck with our metric system? Oh no.
We're not on the metric system.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ours, our metric system. That's what it's called. The not metric system?
The imperial.
The imperial system.
I think it's the imperial.
There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, see?
No. Yes. Yes, they did.
Bummer. They're like,
Yeah.
these dummies
Well,
make this
it's
so
just
hard.
our scientists, the scientists in the US, scientists like people working at NASA, people making airplanes or ships, they work in the metric system, the system of the world, to be able to play among the world stage. But it's funny because craft beer works in the US imperial system to play with our stage. But to me, that signals so much of like, okay, you're using U.S. manufactured equipment, you're using U.S. materials. Like clearly, U.S. is the player. I mean, I had hops from the Yakima Valley of Washington State in Paraguay, in Argentina, in like, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to see. It's so cool.
I also think it's cool, but I'm actually a little surprised by that considering, the Germans kind of crushed beer a long time ago, or, Belgium.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some.
I'm
I think the US
surprised
is-
it's on an imperial system and not a metric system, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But maybe the material is cheaper. I don't know. I don't
That's
know. I would
interesting.
actually like a follow-up on that. That's
Yeah.
intriguing.
Maybe we can get some answers in the comments from people.
That'd be great.
Maybe there's some actual brewers that can tell us why.
That would be great.
Ooh, or owners or somebody. Outside of that little destination, do you have any other places maybe you would like recommend globally that kind of stood out as a surprising area for craft beer?
Yeah, so Seoul, South Korea is a big player on the world stage right now for beer. Wellington, New Zealand. You're going to see a lot of people growing hops there, much like Seattle. They do really high quality, interesting beers. Mexico City has some really interesting, kind of like hole in the walls breweries. Buenos Aires, Argentina has some really great beers. Yeah, I would say those are my big ones right now.
All right, cool. Those are awesome destinations. Gonna put it on my bucket list.
I think it's a good bucket list to have.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Thank you, Campbell.
Yeah, thank you, Campbell. Thanks for joining us on our very first interview on Body by Beer. Great to see you. Great to talk to you. Thanks for teaching us all the ways and the learnings, and we'll chat with you again soon. All right. Thank you, Campbell. Now time to jump into the next segment. Brought to you by Mustard Later. Fun facts
About beer?
about beer.
That's exciting.
One of these days, you could be the sponsor of the Fun
Me?
Fact segment, and your little logo could be right here.
Oh, I like that even
Or your
better.
beer could be here. Just saying, shoot us an email. We'd love for
Your merch could be here.
could be right there. Love for a sponsor. Hit us up, shoot us an email. Let's work out a deal.
Oh, I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well done.
Anyways, Fun Facts brought to you by me. Fun Facts.
Fun facts.
Do you know what regulations as a brewery you must uphold to be considered a craft brewery?
Yes.
Fair. But do you? If you don't, you will now know. To be a small craft brewery, you must produce under 6 million barrels of beer a year.
That's still so much beer.
Still so much beer, but that makes you small, and that's great. To be an independent craft brewery, you must have less than 25% of your business owned by a larger manufacturer, alcohol distributor, larger company. Something on those realms. That
Okay.
keeps you and allows you to stay under the independent label. Now, just a fun number, the majority of Americans live under 10 miles from a craft brewery themselves.
I did not see that third fact coming in. I appreciate what you did there.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
I should think about that more.
that's a good one.
Well done.
Thank you. The second fun fact, going along with our Campbell Hawk interview, if you want to go on a road trip that is kind of themed around craft beer specifically,
So not kind of at all. It just is.
I mean, you still got to drive. There is actually there's a trail called the Ale Trail.
The
And
Great American Ale Trail.
The Great American Ale Trail. There'll be a link provided that you can go find it. But basically, you go from Montana, you head south, and you go through Arizona. You hit up a bunch of breweries, have a good time. Would love to hear if anyone's done this before.
Yeah. Oh my
I'm
God.
kinda
That'd be
tempted
awesome.
to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe someone's crazy and like biked it. That'd be kind of fun.
I could see that too.
Obviously, you cannot drink too much and then keep continuing on your ale trail. You must do it responsibly.
How long does it take?
It takes 2 weeks.
Approximately.
Driving. Around 2
Driving.
weeks. Yeah.
Driving.
Not walking or biking. Approximately 2 weeks. So, if you can get 2 weeks off from work, could be a fun way to meander around the country.
So packing could be easy.
Woo.
You get your raccoon skin hat for Montana, drink a few beers, jump in the car just in time for shorts and tanks and the hot desert weather of Arizona. Of course, depending on what time of the year you're going.
Fair.
Watch out for the saguaros.
They'll jump out and get you.
They do bite if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, I thought that's a really cool little trail for people to be able to do. I know some people are
That
kind
is
of
super cool.
either hitting up their last bit of holiday time for the year. If you're looking for something fun to go do, don't mind Campbell's advice about worrying about weather. Who cares? It's fine.
Yeah, that's
It's
fair.
just, I'm just kidding. Definitely worry about
It's
weather.
I thought that was a really good point.
It was. But yeah, should be a good fun time for people to go do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go do it maybe next week.
Ooh, there you go. That'll be fun.
That's not true. I would like to, but we'll see.
All right, Elizabeth. I know I really love the fun facts, and they are partially my favorite.
Yeah.
But I really get really excited about your segment.
The brews and bites.
Brews and bites.
Bites and brews.
Nom, nom, nom.
They're also a favorite. I do like doing it. It's fun every time. It's educational every time. And it's an excuse to eat and drink and totally a favorite part of my day-to-day.
Yeah.
Would be super excited though to get some chefs or some masterful fooding and pairing experts' opinions or on the show. That'd be super cool. So I'm looking for you. That's my warning.
Yeah.
If you're out there, I know you're out there, but I'll probably be reaching out. So thanks for sticking around for this Brews and Bites. This one is segment is a bit of English tradition mixed with Czech traditions.
Ooh, okay.
Which is kind of nice. We've done, the hearty holiday seasons, maybe a little bit more heavier, maybe a little bit more lighter. But this one I feel like is always a good go-to, really no matter the time of year. So it is our crispy beer-battered fish paired with a crisp, clean pilsner. Yeah, super excited. It appeals to both the traditional beer drinkers and culinary enthusiasts alike. So anytime we're talking about a pairing, whether that be life's relationships, mutual funds, or beer and food pairings, that's just what I came up with today. It just seemed to stick in my head. It's kind of like Trogdor. It just never really goes anywhere. You think about mutual funds? Welcome to beer and food pairing. What? Okay. Obviously, it makes a lot of sense. So when we're talking about I'm talking about our senses, right? So really this one is a 3-part touch to your senses, the taste senses, and of course, the smell, right? First things first, you've got your beer-battered fish and the pilsner. It's clean. It's not overly complex aroma that doesn't clash with any accompanying sauces to a beer-battered fish, whether that's tartar sauce or maybe some vinegar. Yeah.
I do enjoy some fish and chips.
Same.
The pilsner makes sense, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is it the bright flavors of the pilsner? Is it a little bit bready? Is it the hops? What part kind of is really making those two pop together?
Yeah, the taste sensation is a nice mix of the above, right? There's going to be a subtle maltiness that comes in that I threw you off there, didn't I? You're like, what about crisp, clean, and bitter, which is usually what people go to right away. But there is the clean maltiness with a slightly floral or herbal hop character, which complements the normally a white fish without overpowering it.
Which kind of makes sense, right? Because in wine, you tend to do a white wine with a fish, right? To not overpower it. So that makes sense. Yeah,
makes total sense. And then as you mentioned, you got to get into that hoppiness or maybe even bitterness of that breadiness that you're talking about. And so this balanced bitterness can enhance the overall eating experience by cutting through the fatty taste that kind of comes about as well. And it's almost like a flavor reset to the palate.
Okay. That makes sense, right? Because you don't want to get so bogged down in the grease. Even the best fish and chips, that's part of what makes it good, right?
Right.
It's the greasiness.
Right.
And so you kind of got to reset that and kind of clean that out of your mouth. So the next bite is just as good as the first.
Which is taste sense and which is also your touch sense. So that crisp finish of the pilsner counterbalances that oiliness in the frying process. Again, for really any fried food, particularly beer battered fish, but really it's that counterbalance.
Yeah, and the extra bubbles probably does it, right?
Exactly.
Having a highly carbonated beer.
Yeah, exactly. The pilsner being excitedly carbonated beer, right? I didn't know quite how. It comes out nice and carbonated. All right, and then of course the super obvious is going to be the contrast of touch between cold and hot. You're talking about a cold beverage and a hot meal.
Yeah.
Easy peasy, right?
I didn't think about that.
This is how
you break them open and you have the grease and
right. And you're like, oh, okay, maybe it's so good, and you're grabbing that fresh cold beer.
Is that not how you clean off your fingers?
Oh, I mean, you can. That's fine. If you want to go looking like you just dipped your hands in grease and wiped them on your shirt, which you did.
Technically true.
And that's fine. Usually left for those under the age of 5. but to each their own. So what's important to remember about this is that when choosing your Pilsner to pair with a beer battered fish or your favorite fried foods, just make sure it's a well-balanced one, not overly hoppy, and it maintains that clean profile. So that'll make sure that the beer complements rather than competes with the fish.
Yeah, I love that. That'll be great. I wonder, hopefully some businesses out there that are more kitchen restaurant focused that do fish and chips, hearing that, learn something new, and are like, we should get a good Pilsner on.
Also, not above, if you're at home and you're like, okay, yeah, that sounds really good, but I don't want to look up how to make beer battered fish, depending on your level of expertise in the kitchen. You know what I do not shy away from? Fish sticks.
Fish sticks.
Yeah, some old Van de Kamp's or whatever your favorite brand is.
Good old fish sticks with like this really nice Pilsner. I love that.
Hey.
Doesn't have to always be churched up.
No, yeah. It comes in a bag. Pulled it out of a bag. Maybe you use the oven. Probably like 425, 450.
Don't microwave fish. Always use
if nobody's there, who cares?
No.
I don't give a shit.
No. Those are bad advice.
All right. So Van de Kamp's, don't microwave your fish sticks, or do microwave your fish sticks. What I would want to know is, do you have any Pilsners?
Yeah.
Off the top of your head, local, far and wide.
I tend to side toward Italian Pilsners.
Oh.
It's just
delicious.
It's just kind of where I go. New Image. I really like New Image's Italian Pilsner. I get that one quite often. And there's, obviously when in Europe, you get like the good old traditional.
The Czech Republic.
Yeah. And that's all you drink is Pilsners, and that's fantastic. Yeah. So I actually love a Pilsner. It's usually my go-to. Campbell brought up going to Hefeweizens. Mine's often a Pilsner. So
I've been all over the malty ales so far this season. I guess fall into winter. It's been absolutely delicious. But as far as like local goes, Bierstadt in Denver is a great spot to go for Pilsner. Plus, what a great facility. Good for any specific type of energy level that you're feeling that day. Slump over at the bar or go and throw some giant. Play some games.
Yeah, the slow pour Pilsner is fantastic.
Also,
I feel like I always have to get that on draft, though. Yeah. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So if you're making fish and chips at home, not in your microwave, that probably wouldn't be the one I would go to.
At least pour the beer out of the can.
Well, yeah.
Sometimes you're just lazy. Lazy goes beyond a level of laziness. Also, one last shout out to Spy Brewery in Fort Collins.
Oh, yes. Good call. I forgot about that one.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Yep. They have some of the best Pilsners and traditional style beers in the area. Yeah. Hands down. Yeah. Yeah, good call. I kind of forgot about them.
Yeah. Big fan.
All right. That is it for today's Sipisode. Thank you to Campbell Hawk for coming in, doing our first interview. Campbell Hawk does travel planning. She's a beer enthusiast. She can find you places to stay, go. She can work with a budget. She helped Kevin and I plan our most recent Europe trip with a baby. She also told us she was working with someone with disabilities. So she is
go to Iceland.
She's very skilled at what she does. She's a wonderful person. Her contact information will be available. And she'd love to help you plan your trip. Even if it has nothing to do with beer, it's okay. She'll still help you out.
But she'll also support you drinking beer.
She will also support that. Thank you, as always, for everyone that's been listening. All of the positive feedback and comments we've had over this last couple of weeks of people coming up saying how much they loved and appreciated the show. And they've been learning. Your support means so much to us, and it's been really incredible that people honestly are even listening, let alone actually appreciating it. It's incredible. So feel free to subscribe. We are on all the podcast stations. We've got YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all of those. We continue growing. You can follow us on Mustard Later at all of the social media accounts. In addition, we also recently launched Body by Beer as its own social accounts on TikTok and YouTube and Insta and Facebook and all the things. So if you want fun facts, go to Mustard Later. If you want our podcast here and our bloopers and our errors and us cussing at each other, we've got plenty of that, and those are all on the Body by Beer.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you continue to tune in next week. We'll continue to explore more fascinating tales from around the world of beer. As always, and as well said, thank you, beer lovers, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, bye, beer.
Bye, bye, beer.